Hi, my name's Gareth Brierley. I'm the director and co-writer of People Show 138, Last Day. To give a little bit of a history of the People Show, really briefly, People Show is a theatre company in England that have been going since 1966. And most of the show, 98% of it, is live. We've done a few films, and this is our second short film. And the way we approach work is the work comes from a group of people, or it might be a site-specific piece where there might be shows in the library. So the library, for example, might inspire what the content of the show's about. So what we try to do is take this inspiration and do that with film. So when we were making Last Day, first of all we knew is that we had 30 performers, 30 young artists who could come and join us for a project. So that was great. That was the first thing. 30 performers, great. And the next stage was that I got offered a space in London, and it was an old, disused post office sorting building, and it was beautiful. It looked a bit like the This Is America kind of warehouse space, that huge space. So we knew we had 30 young performers, and we had this huge space. So me and Fiona, who also wrote the script, we got together and we kind of wrote a script around this, and we would start thinking about how disused spaces, and in England there's old factory spaces that are all kind of empty or being moved into flats, and I started to think about what were almost like the ghosts of these areas, and what the people all worked there over the years, and the kind of the history of the place. And that was starting our thoughts. And then we created a story about an HR manager, like a middle manager, a guy who's worked himself up from being 16 on the factory floor all the way to sort of like the head of HR. And we thought maybe it's his last day, and he's kind of going through the factory, and the ghosts of everything and the memories of his whole life is starting to come through. And that's where we started to develop this script. And then we start to think about it being in his mind, of course, his ghosts and his thoughts, and he's sort of being tortured. And then we start to think about how it's normally those kind of middle manager roles, people who have been with the workforce themselves, and they're the ones who've had to kind of go and tell the workforce about redundancies and be the one who deliver the bad news. And we start to think about that and thought about what that weight is about him, and basically the whole story started to come round to this person going through on his last day, and him having a redundancy check, and him deciding whether to keep the money for himself or to give it to the workforce. And that is the essence of the film. But what it does, it goes off in completely, as you will see, it goes off into completely mad worlds where his mind is playing tricks with him. He doesn't know what's real or what is unreal. The main obstacle that we had when dealing with this film is the space that we originally wrote the script around, the poster space. It fell through. So we had a script that we made in relation to the space, inspired by this space and the 30 people, but that space literally fell through a month before we were about to start shooting. So very quickly we had to look for another space, which was a nightmare. So we were looking through London for all these kind of warehouse factory spaces, and in the end we got it down to 2. And the biggest things about the great thing about these spaces is that we had all these scenes in the script, and we needed to make something that could be filmed all in one space, but it feels like you're being transported to different areas. So we needed to have a toilet area, of course. We needed to have some kind of boardroom. We needed to have a big factory floor. And so that became quite troublesome. So up to the last moment, it was myself, it was the DOP, Jonathan Bloom, and Jess Warrer, who did the design. We were kind of looking at 2 or 3 spaces. And in the end, luckily, we found this space. Expensive space, but it's space in the East End of London, which is really derelict still, and it was a really cold space, but it was perfect. It had all the kind of different areas that we needed, and that's what we chose. So that was the most difficult thing. And of course, when we started shooting, the most difficult thing is that we had 30 performers, we had a crew around 10 people, and the place that we were filming in, of course, being a derelict factory, was cold, even though we filmed it in the summer. It was full of some rodents. You had hardly any kind of running water, so we had to kind of bring a lot of stuff in. It had power, which is great, one of the things, but we had a kind of like a sliding door, which is in the film, that leads to the outside world. That broke before we had to do the final shot. So the final shot, we had to do a bit of a homemade bit of card pretending to be the shutters for the last shot. So you'll see that. Now you'll see that when you watch it. I don't know why I gave that away. But that was the major problem. And of course, keeping 30 people, 30 young performers happy and excited and enthusiastic for some quite hard things, which is quite one of the hardest things to do. I think what we want to do, we're really pleased with the feedback we've got for the film so far, and it's done well at some festivals. So we like to keep, like this brilliant festival here, we like to keep sending the festivals for the next year or so, and then maybe, hopefully, we'll find some kind of life somewhere else. Maybe that might be on a streaming service, that might be something that we stream, or someone might buy it up or use it for something else. We're always open for that, because I think when we do live work or theatre work, normally you make a show, it might tour for a while, and then that show's gone. It's kind of died. But the great thing about kind of doing film and short film work is that piece of work goes on for ever, hopefully. And I think that's all you can ask sometimes. I hope you enjoy the film. Thank you.